Hello fellow stackers, 365 here, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to do another update on my current bank situation. Now for those of you that have been following the journey along, I've been trying to draw out some cash from my bank. Now I think I've tried 5 banks in total, I believe, if I can remember correctly. Now they're not all different banks, some of them are the same banks but just different branches. But the long story short is I've been struggling to be able to draw money from my bank. Every time I go to the bank, they're telling me that the only way I can get hold of my cash is either by going to the cash machine, which is currently limited to £500 for my particular account, or by pre-ordering my cash and waiting up to 48 hours for it to arrive in the bank. Now, I've missed the opportunity that arose a couple of weeks ago, and that was some precious metals to buy in cash. And I went to the bank and I pre-ordered some cash. They told me up to 48 hours, and it was 10 days before the bank got back to me. And yes, they actually rung me in the end. They actually rung me back and they told me that my money had arrived in the bank. So I went down to collect it. So this was 10 days later. They told me 48 hours. The opportunity that I had to buy the precious metals is now gone, so I can't buy those precious metals, and I am going to close my bank account with this particular bank because I can't believe that all over their website and even in store they told me it was 48 hours to pre-order cash, and it took them a whole 10 days just to get £2,500 for me in the bank. So wasted a lot of my time, a lot of energy, but I'm not going to look at it as a waste of time. I'm going to look at it like a lesson, and that's why I've been sharing this journey here on YouTube, because I want people to understand the risks of having large amounts of money in the bank. Now obviously this is only my opinion and my experience, and I have watched other videos. There was the Gold Standard that released a video a couple of days ago, and head over to his channel and have a look. And he walked into a bank here in the UK and it was very, very flawless. I think he only drew out £1,000. I don't know if he would have tried to draw out a bit more, how it would have gone. But he drew out £1,000. He walked in with his ID and his bank card, and it was very, very flawless. He got it out pretty much within a minute of walking up to the counter. So it does go to show you that it isn't all banks here in the UK. It's just select banks. Maybe it's just I've had bad luck, or maybe it's just the particular banks that I bank with have different procedures and they're making it harder for people to get hold of cash. But to summarise, this is going to be the final bank video. I know I've said that in the past, but things kept transpiring, things kept happening. But we finally, after 10 days, got hold of my cash. All £2,500 of it. Look at that. Now, I'm not a huge fan of holding on to lots of cash. That's why I invest in precious metals. I like my fiat currency to be converted into assets as quick as possible, because this is currently losing around about 10% due to inflation year over year here in the UK. But you've got to admit, the notes here in the UK look very, very nice. They've got lots of security features on them. You can see you've got the kind of holograms, you've got see-through bits on them. They are really, really attractive looking notes here in the UK. But yeah, we finally got the money out, and like I said, it's a bit of a waste of time now, because the opportunity where I needed the money quickly has now gone. But I will be keeping this money out of the bank, although this is going to be losing its spending power due to inflation. I've just decided that going forward I need to keep a larger amount out of the banking system. Now, I've said it before, I do like to stack precious metals because I like the idea of being my own bank and having my own spending power here. I can walk into a bullion dealer or a coin shop and I could transfer that for fiat a lot quicker, it seems, than actually drawing cash out. So I do like having my own banking system right here in precious metals. But I also have now come to realise that it is very important to actually have some cash on hand. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend having £2,500 because that is a lot of cash to have sitting around that is losing its spending power. But maybe just have, say, £500 or £1,000, something like that, just accessible. So if an opportunity arises where you need cash, or an emergency arises where you need cash, you're able to get hold of it quicker than I was in this experience. Now, you have got the option of obviously going to a cash machine, but as we've seen, banks are closing quicker by the day. So it won't be long before you won't have an easy access ATM or cash machine nearby. So even though you can actually currently draw, I think it's up to £500 out of an ATM, depending on what your bank account withdrawals limits you to, soon that option is going to be gone as well, because as we've seen, hundreds and hundreds of banks are set to close here in the UK this year alone. So soon you won't even have the option of being able to walk up to an ATM and actually draw out physical cash. So I do think it's very, very important, in my opinion, and again, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that, so it's always just my opinion when I'm talking on this channel. But in my experience, I do think it is very, very important, especially after the experience that I've had with getting hold of this stuff. It's proved a lot more difficult. Now, I've said in previous videos the reasons I think they're making it more difficult, and I will touch upon that in this video, and I think it's because they want to push along CBDCs, central banking digital currency, quicker and quicker, and they want to make it so it's actually more awkward to get hold of your cash, so that people are forced to use digital transactions more and more, and it gets to a stage where the Bank of England or the government here in the UK can turn around and say, look, this is the percentage of people that are using cash, this is the percentage of people that are using online services and digital banking. It makes sense for us to do this transition now, because more than ever people aren't using cash anymore. So, but like I said, it's not through choice. As you've seen, some of the time it's through convenience and the fact that we can't get hold of this stuff anymore. So it's a real shame, because although this is obviously losing value year over year due to inflation, this is still kind of a tangible thing. You can still hold it. So it's a shame, although obviously I'd much rather have my fiat converted into this stuff, you can still actually hold this. It's still a physical thing. Whereas very, very soon, this will be phased out and you won't even have this. It will all be numbers on an app. And it's just a sad thing to think that in, say, 10, 15 years' time, when my children are older and they start getting jobs and they start earning money and things like that, they might not even have the luxury of actually being able to play around with this stuff, because it is a satisfying feeling. When you work hard and you see money on the screen in the bank, it's not the same satisfaction as actually holding the cash. Now, this is similar to what I earn a month from my job right here on the table. So you don't actually appreciate it when it just goes straight into the bank and it's just numbers on the screen, because it goes out, it goes to different bills here and there, and it sort of goes off to different investments if you've got automatic investments set up. So you don't really actually get to appreciate it. You just kind of see numbers on the screen go up, numbers on the screen go down. Some numbers stay there, some numbers go, changes every month up and down. So it's actually quite nice. It's really satisfying and humbling to actually hold cash, and to think, like I said, in say 10, 15 years time when my children are older, they might not have this experience of actually being able to hold physical cash, because you can see how quickly that the government and the Bank of England and all the rest of it are moving away from this stuff. And it's a sad thing, because just holding this amount of cash in my hand really kind of makes you appreciate how hard you work, and it's a sense of satisfaction to actually have something physical in your hand. And that is one of the main reasons that got me into stacking precious metals in the first place, that the actual fact that you have physical value in your hand. I had properties, but again, properties are physical, but you can't physically hold them in your hand. I had stocks on an app, I had crypto on an app, but I didn't have things like precious metals where you can actually hold a physical asset. It's a completely different experience. And I do urge you to draw out some cash and actually have a play around with it, because it does actually make you value your money a lot more when you have cash. It's so easy to spend your cash when you use Apple Pay or just transfer money over, or use a Visa card or a debit card or credit card or whatever you use to spend money. It's very, very easy to spend this stuff when you're using it with digitally. And I think that's another reason, that's another topic for another day, but I think that's another reason why the government are kind of pushing everyone to go digital, because they've realised that people spend their money a lot more fluid and a lot more easily when they're using credit cards. If you walk into a shop and you just got your debit card and you touch it on a screen, the money goes from your bank. It's a lot more easy to get your head around doing that than if you was to go into a shop and they say, oh right, that new jacket is £150, and you've actually got to count out £150. It's a lot harder to actually part with something physical. Now, let me know your thoughts on that. Is that just my opinion? Do you feel that same way? Whenever I go out shopping, I much prefer to have cash with me, because I find it a lot harder to part with this stuff. Say you're walking past a shop and you've got a drink in the car, but you forgot to take it out of the car and you're thirsty and you're walking past a corner shop and you think, right, I'm going to nip in here and buy a drink, and you look in your wallet and you only got, say, £30 in notes. It's a lot harder to bring yourself to going into a shop to buy a bottle of water or a can of Coke, whatever it may be, and break into a whole note. It's a lot harder to do that because you think, oh no, do you know what, I'll just wait till you get back to the car. I don't want to break into a note and have loads of coins and break into a whole £10 just for a drink. I'll wait. Whereas if you've got Apple Pay or you've got your credit card or your debit card, it's so much easier to walk into a shop, pick up a drink, go, touch it on the screen, and you brought that drink. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process behind it all. I think that they like the idea of it being digital because people just spend it a lot more easy. People go onto Amazon and they do 3 clicks and you brought something and it's arriving tomorrow, as opposed to going to the shop and actually having to part with a physical item for something. It's a lot harder to do, and it's like back in the day when people used to go and buy cars with cash and things like that, and that doesn't really happen anymore because everything's been so heavily inflated price-wise that we've got to a stage now where everything is so unachievable to buy outright, so they force you into this kind of finance situation. Even if you go to buy a front door, they make it all so expensive so that you have to pay monthly, and cars are so expensive, a sofa's so expensive. Back in the day when my parents and my grandparents were younger and they had their own houses and they were growing up, they would go into a shop and they'd go, right, here's £300, whatever it may be, for a sofa, thank you very much. And again, they wouldn't be buying the top of the range sofa or anything because it would be hard to part with this physical currency. But they would go into a shop and they would buy a sofa and they'd be done with it. There we go, there's my £300. I'll take a table and chairs, a dining room set, a sofa, a fridge, freezer, I need a new front door, whatever it may be. Whereas now everything's so inflated and so expensive, it forces people to do finance, because you want to buy a sofa, it's £1,000 or £2,000, whatever it may be, and pay extra and you get a footrest that pops out and a TV that comes up the back or whatever it may be. And they force people in a roundabout way to go to the finance option and then in the long term pay more over the term of the finance. So yeah, it's a real shame that that's the way the world's going, but you notice it with every single product. Every single product is going on to the business model of a subscription service. Even when you download an app, back in the day when you go on the App Store and you download an app, if it was kind of a more advanced app, you might pay a one-off fee and that was it. Whereas now a lot of the apps are kind of pushing you along. Even the children's apps, I noticed, when you download the children's apps and it's like learning ABC or learning numbers, whatever it may be, instead of just a one-off fee, they try and push you towards this, pay $4.99 a month or pay £15 a month or whatever it may be. And everything is going to that kind of business model now, where it's a subscription-based service, so that once they've got you as a customer, you're almost a forever customer instead of a one-off customer. And it's a real shame, and that is all down, in my opinion, due to how easy it is to spend money without actually physically handing it over. Because if someone physically said every month you've got to go into the shop and give someone £20 for this app because it's £20 a month payment, a lot of people wouldn't do it. You're not going to walk in somewhere and draw out the cash and go, oh, no, that's £20, that's 2 hours work, or whatever your hourly rate is. It's a lot harder to give away. And like I said, this is roughly what I earn a month from my day job. And just holding it here makes you appreciate every single hour, and it makes you appreciate every single pound that you come to spend, because feeling this in your hand, it makes you realise that you're trading your time for money, and it makes you want to hold on to it a lot better. If I left this money in the bank, this would be gone a lot quicker than if I left this in my hand, for example, because it's a lot harder, like I said, to actually spend cash. So yeah, it's a real shame, but obviously that's not a wise move to have lots of cash on hand, because like I said, inflation is eating away at your spending power year over year, month over month. So yeah, let's wrap up the video there. Really nice to finally bring this series to a conclusion, because it has been a long, drawn out series, and I hope it's taught people a few kind of lessons along the way, that not every single bank here in the UK, as we've seen from other people's videos and other people's experiences, is making it as hard as my banks were. But 10 days to draw out money that they told me 48 hours I should have it, and even 48 hours to have your own cash. £2,500 shouldn't be a massive amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but again, due to fractional banking, if every single person that banks with that particular bank went out to draw the same amount in the same day, the bank just would not have that cash on hand. So I can see why they're doing it, but yeah, we're in a very, very strange place at the moment financially in the world. So yeah, just look into it, do your research. I hope that my channel is kind of educating you and and showing you kind of what's going on behind closed doors, if you like, and helping to open your eyes a little bit. And in my opinion, I'm going to continue to convert this stuff into assets, because this stuff over a long period of time has proved to increase in value and go up and up and up. Whereas this stuff underneath is just shown over the long period of time, it goes down and down and down in value. There's so much less you can get for £10 now than you could say 5 years ago. It's just insane how quickly this is devaluing. So yeah, thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. Thanks for following it along. And yeah, now I'm probably going to have to pay some of this back into my bank, because like I said, I don't really know if I want the whole amount out, losing value. I might, I don't know, put some half back in the bank, keep half out. Need to find a new bank now. I'm probably going to bank with the same people that the Gold Standard banks with, because they made it a lot easier to get hold of this stuff. But soon all banks are going to follow suit, in my opinion, because CBDCs are just around the corner. So yeah, look into it, do your own research. As always, thanks for all the support, and I hope you have a very nice day.